Yeah, kudos to you. Everything that you're mentioning is like, I didn't know at the moment I was dealing with some of these things, but I remember, yeah, the acting out,
Hmm.
misbehaving, and it wasn't who I was. It was what was happening to me,
Right,
right?
right,
I felt the
right.
not feeling loved. I felt like I wasn't seen,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I did feel the difference, and you just made sure that that wasn't the case, and you're still making sure that's not the case, not just for your own kids but for other kids. Talk about some of the things that you're doing at the organization level to really help some of these
Yeah, so I
families.
mean, we really have three, major areas that we try to help in. One is sort of what we've been talking about, and it was where we started. It was really being a support to
Hmm.
families that chose adoption. Then the next thing that we sort of evolved into was the kids that are in care that weren't adopted, that were maybe in the foster system, and while we help a little bit more financially with international adoption, and so the families at Kentucky that chose international adoption, and we were able to help them. But we moved, when we moved into the kids, it was more about the kids within Kentucky's foster care system. And so the big thing we do is to try and provide life coaches to those families, and or to those kids, because a lot of times, it seems like not a lot, and we sometimes can only get to be where we have an hour or so a week with them. It can be extended into a little bit more, but that is the 1 hour a week that they look forward to, and the 1 hour a week where they know somebody is there who just appreciates and wants a relationship with them, and not, somebody else who might be a psychologist or a doctor, or those kinds of people that are around you in more of that institutional kind of setting, or even if it's with a family, maybe it's a foster child in a family. Those opportunities actually allow a little bit of respite time for the foster family while they're with their
Hmm.
life coach, and we don't use mentor, the word mentor, so much to describe our life coaches, because we really want it to be more about just doing life together than somebody who is in a position of, well, I'm helping you, I'm guiding you. I mean, it does become that, but it only becomes that after there's a trust and a
Yeah.
relationship, right? So I mean, I think we
Yeah.
work that's our second area. Third area that we evolved into is sort of a family preservation. So we have about 90 families. Well, before I jump to that, but the life coaching side, we are working with 40 to 50 kids right now, and we could have 20 more if we had enough life coaches. I mean, it's really just always trying to recruit life coaches into this world of walking with kids. So part of it is the difficulty is just not understanding that they're out there, because they're kind of hidden in plain sight in the United States. They're at places that have fluffy names and all of that, but they're really institutional living. And part of it is just for people to understand how they approach them, and not put on that initial label of these are bad kids. They're not bad kids. They're kids who have deep hurt and they're acting out. And so trying to help people understand that. And then this
Yeah.
third place of ministry is really with the struggling parents. A lot of times moms, most of the time, sometimes a family, but just helping them to get stability in their life with helps and things that we can bring to them, while we're kind of managing a case with them, so that they get stability in the states, not always knocking at their door to take their children away. Because a lot of times it is loving parents who just don't have the means in some way or another. And so that creates
Yeah.
situations, and that's where we're especially effective. I mean, we don't, by all means, we don't have a staff of professionals that are there. We have a staff of people who are passionate about growing trust in a relationship with a family to help them. So we come at it from that side of things. But that's the three main areas, and we're serving about 90 families right now this year, that are just these struggling families, trying to help them keep their kids and provide and do the best they can with them and for them. So,
You're saying some really good stuff, man, that I could really relate to, and it's the sense of one, trusting someone, and having someone in your life that really believes in you.
hmm
You
hmm
know, and
yeah,
it it just means so much when
Right.
one person sees the good in you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that person is what usually kind of plants that seed for you. You know, someone asked me, Efrain, your mom had 10 kids, your father had 8 kids, they only have one together. What makes you that special one? And my response was obviously God really blessed me with great people in my life that allowed me to that loved me more at times than I loved myself. That seen the good in
Yeah.
me before I
Yeah.
seen the good in myself, right? And it's what you're doing is that life coach that sees good in these
Right.
kids, and they're not seeing them for the problem that they're causing,
Right.
realizing that there's so much hurt in there,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And we can catch at an early age as these kids start to age out, they start to find the right path in life. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Because I've seen it, I witnessed it, where kids didn't have that preparation, so then they go out into the world and they're lost,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have
Mm-hmm.
that family, and they feel alone,
Yeah.
and that's what the drugs, and that's where all these things really start to happen. So I love that you
Yeah.
guys are really knocking this out at an early age,
Well, I mean,
and I love that life really led you here.
what's that? You like what?
I, I love that that God led you here. The
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
led you to this
Thanks.
moment to be able to help and have these
Well, I
conversations.
mean, to your point there, that one of the common statistics is that 75% of kids that come out of foster care end up, homeless, in prison, or they pass, through bad choices or whatever that looks like. And, so a lot of times, prison ministries, if you ask somebody who works in prison ministry, they will tell you that a huge percentage of those men or women in prison ministry came out of foster care, and so it's just where we are in the stream of trying to prevent. We'd love to put prison ministry out of business, by helping kids in
Hmm.
foster care not have that part as part of their path, and so it is true. And I think to your other point, sometimes it's not sometimes, especially for the kids that are in foster care, the ones that have been successful, and you said it, they will point to three or so significant people that were in their lives at the right time in the right place that made a huge impact and shaped
Yep.
their perspective, either of themselves or what they were capable of, or something that was there, and they might be the most unsuspecting people. One of the guys that I know will name his third grade teacher that brought him in after school, not for detention, but to give him an apple because she knew he was going hungry, and sit and talk with him while he ate the apple. He will name that person as one of the most significant people in his trajectory in life. Other people would just name people that they bumped into somewhere, and they took an interest, and they had conversation, and they maybe met sometimes, and they maybe were only there 6 months or a year, but they were influential enough at that point that they changed a trajectory. So I mean, it certainly
Yeah.
happens that way. So I think people too, like especially in the life coach world, they underestimate their impact on a youth. It's I've heard somebody out there say, who was a foster kid at one point, it's not how much time you have, it's what you do with that time. And so it being high value, high impact time is what's important. So I think it just kind of
I
substantiates
love it.
or emphasizes some of the things you mentioned.